Hey, what's up, everybody? This is Cam Wade, and you have reached the Commercial Roofing Radio Show. It has been a little while since we've had a show. Of course, life happens. I just want to appreciate everyone that has been following, and we've gained new followers from our older shows. So this one is a very important one, very special to me. Today, we've got Randy Hurtado from Texas, from DT Roofing, Kingdom Builders Construction, Patriot Garage Doors, Guardian Seamless Cutters, and of course DT Commercial Roofing Systems. So this is very special to me as a kind of a hometown hero of ours, me being from Texas as well. So Randy, I just want to welcome you and thank you so much for being on the show.
Absolutely. Thanks for asking me to be on.
Yeah, man, I know you're busy, um, and you taking the time, it really means a lot to me in the commercial roofing radio. Um, fans that are out there that do follow this. Because I do believe you just have so much information, just value to add. You started this adventure, what, in 2009? Is that right?
The company started in 2009. I didn't start with the company until the end of 2015.
2015. And
Yeah.
y'all have since 2015 have scaled and grown quickly, rapidly into, very diverse and segmented, each of these different businesses and,
hmm
siloed it out since then. Is that right?
Yes, that's right.
Yeah,
That's
that's
right. Yeah.
awesome. I remember meeting you and your team out at, it was in Granbury at that hotel. What is that? It's right there on the water. There was like a home show, a small home show out there. And
Yes. Yes.
and I remember, seeing you guys had multiple booths out there for, a good portion of your different LLCs, which was really cool to see that you were, really owning that space in a town that I hold dear. My mom has lived there for some time now. It feels like a second home to me. Me being born in Arlington, Texas, Granbury has always been so close, and it was always an escape for me and my friends, whether we were skipping school just to go fishing off a dock, whatever it may be on Lake Granbury. It's one of my favorites.
Yeah,
So with
it's a
that
wonderful
being
town.
so with that being said, you guys have really taken over the Granbury market. Weatherford, you'll have a shop there in Stephenville. Is that right?
Yes.
And
Yeah, we
where
have
else? You have
offices in Glenrose, Weatherford, and Hood County. Our seat, where our headquarters is located. And yeah, our Weatherford office is our newest office. I take that back. Our Glenrose office is our newest office. Hasn't doesn't even have the signage yet up on it, although we do have staff working out of it. Our Weatherford office just got signage, so we're really starting to expand our locations pretty quickly, and we think that is important because as a consumer, I like to see that the people that I'm spending money with are invested in my community and not just trying to pull money out of the community that I'm in. And we're very, very much in tune with all the communities that we serve.
Yeah, I see that too. That's something I've followed on Facebook. You're a part of the mini mansions.
Yes, that's a ministry that I'm on the board of. It serves single moms with children. And so, the main focus obviously is to point them to Christ, but a lot of these moms are left in really terrible situations where they don't have support either from family or from their uh, spouse that help father the children that they now are responsible for. And so we exist to try to be a light through Christ to help these moms with just not only the initial needs that they may have, a utility bill or a vehicle, but more importantly, being able to set them on a path to so they can not only be plugged into a church and have a community around them, but also, teach them things like financing and things that they're going to need in order to make it on their own, with the kids.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's special. And to be able to, outwardly, stand on, on your foundation of your principles and, draw a line in the sand and be able to communicate that to, because I know it is difficult today in this world of business that, and just in our country alone, to stand behind your faith. You get judged by it. And that's okay. And I really,
Yep.
that's one thing I respect about you and I love about you, as a follower of Christ myself. I wouldn't be where I am without him. And to be able to touch as many people as possible and lead people to that ministry, man, that's really awesome. It's special. And you're talking about, um, teaching some very tangible things that not everyone, we're taught. We weren't taught finances, balancing checkbooks for the most part, taxes and those sorts of things. And those are a lot of things that we as people trip up on, especially business owners when you're getting started out. And that's why, I see how you've siloed out, everything that you do is its own separate entity. Whereas when I was still a contractor and a roofing project manager and sales manager, and even a small business owner myself, those are, things that usually trip you up and,
Yes,
would take really good people out of a business, just because it's, you weren't born a business leader, and having all those assets already built into you, like a downloaded computer. Um, so with that being said, like when you got started, with them in 2015, let's get a little bit of, background history of what led you to where you are today. I think it's important to really understand who the man is, who the woman is, that motivates you, that gets you, um, pulling others in and realizing, we can't all do it alone. So if you don't
sure.
mind giving our community a little bit of background on who Randy is.
So first and foremost, I'm a child of God, as we talked about, but I'm a husband, I'm a father to six, a grandfather to four. Um, I'm a retired. This kind of goes into some things that people may not know about me. Is I'm a retired fire captain. Served for 17 years on the department locally. Retired a few years back, just because business was getting so busy that I had to. There were entire blocks of time where I wasn't able to serve, and so I just felt like my position would be better served by somebody who had the time. And but prior to getting into roofing and construction, I like to say my mom had four boys. Three of them went into construction, and the other one was a nerd. And I was the nerd. I was an IT security software specialist for 24 years prior to getting into this industry. My customers were the likes of the Fortune 50s, the Pentagon, all the branches of the government. They would hire our company to come in and identify do threat assessments essentially on how to keep bad actors out of their network, show all the vulnerabilities, and then show them how to keep how to mitigate that. And so that's what I would do. I'd go out and spend a week at the Pentagon talking with the Office of Secretary of Defense about how to keep China out and exactly the roadmap to that success. Sign the contract, and then our engineers would come in and implement it all. And I did that for many years, over 20 years. And it wasn't until around 15 that I had made an acquaintance. Actually, it was a little bit earlier than that with my current partner, Derek Tanner. We basically officed next to each other. I had an office space outside of the house, and he was my neighbor at the building that we were in, and so being the extrovert that I am, I'd go over and make his acquaintance, and hey, let's go grab lunch sometime, and that led to deeper conversations during lunches and talking about business, and he had a business that was well known in the area. I knew DT Roofing personally. In fact, I had used them for my own roof replacement and had a great experience. His biggest obstacle was he didn't know, and this is, we talked a moment ago about people having strengths. He knew how to keep the business in front of the customer base, but he really uh, didn't know how to grow it into anything larger than what was happening, day to day. So it is more of a reactive business instead of a proactive business. And I understood from being in sales for 20 some odd years how to be proactive. And so I offered to start selling for him on the side when I wasn't doing my day job. I would sell in the evenings and weekends just so I can understand the industry. The goal originally wasn't to try to move into this industry. I was happy where I was at, though it was becoming mundane. And yeah, started selling for him, and really started liking it a lot. Liked dealing with the homeowners, liked dealing with the businesses, um, not corporate America like I was already used to dealing with. And about the end of 15, the owner of the company that I had a contract with that most of my revenue came from called up and said, "Hey, I just want to let you know that we a dream of a lifetime just happened and we got purchased." And unfortunately, the company that purchased us already has several people in our area that are in your area that do what you do, so they're not going to ask you to stay on.
Mm.
And it was a great opportunity for me to pivot and move into a different industry. And yeah, went into Derek's office and told him, and we started working out what that was going to look like. And one of the very first things out of the gate was, "Hey, we need to. I need to run it because I don't want to have to ask permission every time I want to do something. But if you trust me, this will be a $5 to $7 million company in no time." And of course, the numbers that the company had achieved up until that point had never exceeded 1.8 million. So that sounded like a windfall for him. He's like, "We've never done those type of numbers." I'm like, "I know, but you've never had somebody that understands sales and can lead a sales team either." And so he trusted me, and through God's blessings, our company has grown into this year. Throughout our companies, we'll close $40 million in revenue, and
Wow.
30 million of that is in our residential roofing.
Wow, that's awesome. Yeah, that's what I was gonna say, man. That was gonna lead me to my next question, but you answered as what that pivotal moment was, and it sounds like you turned a what most would consider a bad situation, basically getting let go from something you've been doing for a long time. Most people would freak out, but it sounded like you had already uh, had this working, and it was more of a like you said, a God thing that um, it was already established, and it just was like a natural flow, and that's
Yeah.
awesome, especially in a place like Granbury too. Um, which even though it's so small and such a warm little town and growing crazily, it's also a very if you, I guess you could call it like not nichey, but clicky. Like you've got to
Mm-hmm.
know people. Like to get into Pecan Plantation, which for most people don't know, it's basically a gated town within the town,
Mm-hmm.
with golf courses, airports. It's a really cool place. I know when I was selling roofs in Texas, that was having an inn into that neighborhood was like the best thing ever. But to be able to grow with that town and to kind of sidestep into the commercial world that you have. I know, $30 million makes up a good portion of that residential, which leaves open another huge chunk of commercial. How did what did that look like? So I know that's probably the biggest question I get when I'm trying to help residential roofers really jump into that commercial world and get those, not just get the leads, but win them and be able to, do right by them and not tank their own business by taking on such a risk
Yeah.
when they're not ready for it. So how do you guys jump into the commercial world?
Well, naturally, when you're a roofer and somebody comes to you, you start to build a reputation for being the best of Hood County and everything. Well, then somebody with the layman doesn't know that there's a difference between the building that my business is in and my home. They just know that there's a roof over top of both of them, and that company seems to be everywhere and winning awards. And my neighbor used them, and my cousin used them, and so naturally we started getting calls in for commercial type work. What's very important to us when we go into any market space or any particular service is that we know what we're doing. If we don't know what we're doing and we can't do it right, then we don't belong there. And so, as we would have people ask, there were some times where we just weren't going to be able to do the job because we didn't have the knowledge and skill set yet to provide the type of service that was consistent with our branding and our reputation. And so we grew into it where, commercial roofing has only been an 18-month project for us so far.
Mm-hmm.
I would say 18 months where we started taking it seriously. We separated it from our residential roofing company, DT Commercial Roofing Systems, and has its own P&L, its own books, LLC, everything, its own management, its own sales team, its own technicians, everything about it runs on its own. But we went into the business. I think the reason why a lot of residential roofers are scared to go into it is because they think that commercial roofing is all about doing 70,000 squares of TPO right out of the gate.
Yeah.
And that's just not the case. The reality is like only 4% of commercial roofs out there absolutely have to be replaced at any given time. The rest of them just need to be maintained or
Hmm.
repaired. And so when we decided to go into the commercial space with the help of Ryan Groth's Sales Transformation Group
Yeah.
and Cody Klein's
Yeah.
roofing, a commercial roofer program, we were able to approach it from a position of being a maintenance and repair company that happens to do roofs whenever they're necessary. And when we understood that concept, that not only opened doors to great margins for repairs and great relationship building with commercial property owners, but roofs came out of it too. You know, our largest roof we've done to date was 350,000 square feet, and it was a cheese factory in Stephenville, Texas. Schreiber,
Wow.
and 6-inch ISO is a very complicated job, and but we were able to execute, and the customer was not only impressed, but they started to talk with their cohorts within the community who owned other commercial buildings, other businesses entirely, like Emerson Process,
Hmm.
or FMC Technique. And next thing you know, we're coding that building, or we're doing, doing metal over here. And Stephenville, Texas, of all places, has been our commercial mecca, you know,
Yeah.
where you get one job completed where people know your name and know that you did the job correctly and that everything's working out well. And next thing you know, it just creates, a domino effect. And the majority of the commercial that we've sold has not been replacements. It's been either large repairs, maintenance, or coatings.
Yeah, well, that's awesome. Thanks for sharing that. You answered a lot of my questions in there as far as like huge projects. And yeah, Cody Klein is someone I respect. In fact, I think we're going to hopefully be able to work out having him on the show this month after
Awesome.
Thanksgiving. He's someone I have followed for a long time, and I've got a lot of, even though I'm not a commercial roofer anymore, doing what I do, I still utilize his techniques into obtaining those relationships. And it's also things that I'd like to teach roofers too. That like, hey, don't go in trying to swing for the fences and trying to get the big re-roof out of the gate. Be a problem solver and get in those repairs. I know when I was a commercial roofer and getting into it, man, I carried around a hand torch with me and some TPO, in the
Mm-hmm.
back of my truck. Um, because so many people just overlooked and didn't even want to mess with the repairs because all they want is the big piece of the pie. But like you said, they lead to those as well. So having that a part of your system, having a repair team out there is just vital. And then being able to, like you said, I think it's so transformational to just be able to own, hey, we don't know it all, and we're not expecting to know it all right out of the gate. So we can take advantage of these opportunities, but let's bring some other people in for a while until we get our feet wet, get really educated, um, and maybe we take a little bit, a smaller slice of that pie. And share it around. I think that's really important. I think that's a lot of things that people overlook. Maybe it's an ego, a pride, being afraid to ask for help. I
Yep.
think with way we're heading in the industry, it's getting easier to ask for help because people are more, like yourself, more open to sharing, what's made you successful. Whereas I know back when I got started, working for different outfits, they didn't want to share, a
Mm-hmm.
lot of their knowledge. They were always really afraid that, oh, you take that and go start your own gig, which does happen a lot. But those guys a lot of times can fail because
Yes.
they lack the ability to slow down and really learn the true meat and potatoes of it. So it's really cool to again, the people that I've met like Ryan Groth, and to see that you guys have taken advantage of it and it works. Those
Yep.
things work just like any other system, training system. As long as you're using it, as long as you're expecting, um, your team to utilize it and draw that boundary that, hey, these are all tools that cost money and you need to use them. And when that comes from great leadership, people that want to follow you, and make you proud, make themselves proud, I think that's just so vital. And it's just, man, it makes me feel good to know that um, it works. The
Yeah.
products that are out there, they're not just people just trying to sell something.
No.
It's systems that they have found that work, and they're always adjusting. I mean, like Cody Klein is always adapting, always adjusting, always
Mhm.
pivoting what he's able to coach and teach and apply with others. So,
Well, that's
man,
because he's willing, even though he's an influential, and so is Ryan, influential in our space. They're also willing to stop and listen, and then they learn something, and then they can take that what they learned and put it into their brand and their solution, and then other people benefit from it. The reason why I've never been concerned about sharing anything, and even with my local competitors, is that 5% of the people are actually going to do anything with it.
mm-hmm,
The one thing you can't teach is willingness to work hard. You could teach, somebody thinks about getting into Bitcoin or getting into stock trading or getting into, you could teach them all of the head knowledge, but if they don't have the intestinal fortitude to put in the grind and learn what it's going to take to be successful, then it's just knowledge. It's just and there is obviously a difference between knowledge and wisdom,
mm-hmm,
and so I think it's selfish when if you have somebody in front of you that is asking you a question about, because we all were there. We all had a mentor or somebody we looked up to. For me, one of my biggest mentors is a great friend of mine, Mike Williams, who owns several companies. They're not in our space at all. They don't even compete in our space, but he understands business. And so from the beginning, when I first got in with the company and then ultimately became a partner, he was always my go-to, like, hey, we're we did this, we did that, like we're able to get to here, like now what? Like what should I expect next? He didn't say, well, you know what, go ahead and swipe your card here and then we'll go ahead and have a chat. He freely, gave that advice, and for that I'm thankful. And so I love paying it forward, whether it's residential roofing companies that I coach and help at no cost. Just they reach out. I get texts all the time via messenger. Hey, I have this company in Connecticut. This is what we're doing. Well, have you tried this, this, and this? And man, thank you so much, man. I'll let you know how it works out. It's like, why not if I have the time? And I know there's going to be somebody that's going to do the same for me as we continue to grow our commercial roofing company because, it's not a $30 million company yet, but it will be. No question. I have zero doubt that it will be. Just like I had zero doubt that our residential roofing company would continue to grow, and it has. We're going to employ a lot of the same, and we have employed a lot of the same techniques um, around relationship building and what have you that we used on our residential side, and it's working.
yeah, that's so important, and I appreciate you again being, um, just like you said, paying it forward, um, embracing the suck, and that's one thing I try to teach my 17-year-old son, or I do, as well as others that I coach, that may be friends or just within the industry, that embrace that suck, that challenge, because it's what is on the other side of that, that we call success, or in
That's
that
right.
that feeling of accomplishment and that growth. And I really appreciate you being a steward of our community. And that leads me, the next thing you talked about, relationships, because you also have, correct me if I'm wrong, like a referral type system,
So
right?
last beginning of last year, I started working on a program with my friend Ryan Van Fleet out of Florida for rooferreferrals.com. And the whole purpose behind that project for me it was twofold. It was to put together what has worked so well for DT roofing into a program that could be followed by other roofing companies. And this is going to sound like BS or whatever, but the truth is, Ryan has been, great. He understands the technology, he understands all of that stuff, and can put what we've done into an actual tangible program. And it was income for him. You know, he has a daughter and he's a single dad. And so I thought, well, I have this information that I keep having to put in like bullet points into a messenger. We could build a program around it and then monetize it for a really reasonable price. And then Ryan can have an income and a career through that because he's already doing great work. It's just, you know, being able to. And so Ryan's the sole owner of that company. Now, I was a partner in it at the beginning. And then I kind of, once it was well established, and I kind of backed out of it and just said, hey, run with it. And I'll be there if you need any. And then I send customers that way. And of course, I get a kickback for customers that sign up. But the main purpose for it was to basically be able to say, now when people come to me and go, hey, what do you, I was like, well, first I would recommend going and looking at this program over here
Mm-hmm.
because that's literally the playbook for DT roofing on our relationship. And it's for all of our companies, but mainly for our residential and our commercial roofing companies because real estate agents, property managers, and insurance agents exist on the residential and commercial side of things. And they all have influence. They all have leads that they can send you. And they become, I wrote, in fact, I haven't even opened the package yet, but Daniel Zavatny sent me the book that he had at RoofCon at his booth that I contributed a chapter in,
Oh, sweet.
and I called it the Secret Sales Force, and that's what it is. I have a sales team of 17 sales guys out there beating the ground, building relationships, but it's ultimately those realtors, those insurance agents, those property managers that after the relationship's been established with my sales guys are just sending them business, tons of business, and both on the commercial and the residential side, and it's because we provide a value to them. You know, anytime you're approaching somebody and you need something from them, you need to approach it from the angle of what can I do to help them, not how can they help me?
Mm-hmm.
Because when you go with it with those glasses on, then they're going to see that. And if you go at it from an angle of what pains do they have that I can solve, and by me solving it, I get ultimately the outcome I need. Uh, then everybody wins.
Mm-hmm.
And that's literally, I mean, the numbers are real too. Like in 23, $8.3 million dollars of our residential roofing revenue, which represented about 25% of our revenue last year for residential roofing, came from real estate agents, property managers, and insurance agents. So
Wow.
these numbers aren't just like, you know, like two guys helped him and suddenly he made a whole program around it. Like, no, if we didn't have it, we would be 25% of our revenue last year wouldn't have happened. And so that's all that program teaches is how to, and it works for commercial and residential. It's just roofingreferrals.com.
Roofingreferrals.com. Yeah,
Yeah.
Brian Van Fleet, man, really nice gentleman. I remember when he was um, talking about and made some posts of like, hey, he's working on some really cool stuff,
Mm-hmm.
and then it just took off. Again, that's just really cool to have that servant heart and mentality flowing within our world and our space that we're in. That's why again I wanted to have you here.
Well,
So
and
more.
I don't want, you know, actually I do. I don't have a problem with making this podcast as much about God as possible, but the reality is you can't outgive God. So the more your heart is to serve others, whether they're your competitors, they're people in the industry, they're customers, they're whatever, you're going to be rewarded for it. And I really believe that's the chief reason for our success in our company and why we continue to grow is it. I mean, you of all people have a direct understanding of what it means to have a company our size in Granbury, Texas,
Yeah, yeah,
and
for
for
sure.
90% of that revenue to come out of Granbury, Texas. Like people know that we serve Parker and Hood and Erath and Johnson County, but 90% of that revenue came from Hood
Yeah.
this year, last year, year over year. We're looking to shift that obviously because we want to pull the same revenue out, but we want to pull it from other areas as well so we can increase our total size. But it's through serving being the focal point. It's not
Mhm.
we want to do this much money next year. We want to make this much EBITDA. You're like that's important. That's very important. If those aren't important to you, you don't need to be in business. But it's what's the heart behind it. Like if it's just about getting a Ferrari or buying a really big home, then that is so empty. but serving is such a more rewarding goal.
Sure is. That's awesome. Well, with you being where you are and how you've grown and elevated to where you're at within just your businesses that you're a part of, what would you say? What is your day to day like? You know, what are your daily challenges today? Because definitely you've got challenges still, but they're probably new challenges. What are some of the common challenges that you face now that you're more in a what do you call yourself? The COO,
Yeah,
CEO, what?
Chief, yeah, COO. My partner is the CEO. His responsibility is, I like to put it in the most simplistic terms. He spends the money, and I help find it through my
Okay.
side. So I'm over sales and marketing. So I lead the through other leadership within our company. Mitch Hickman, he's our VP of sales. So he answers directly to me, and then our marketing VP, who's also in house, answers to me, and then I don't micromanage, so they're left to do their job and in respect to do their job. And then every once in a while they get a text from me like, hey, in the next sales meeting, this is a topic we need to talk about. I've just read some reports in our whatever, I just actually sent one to Mitch about our financing. Like, I noticed some of our guys aren't offering financing, even others are, and giving him real stats behind that. Like,
Hmm. No, you're good. We're back on.
my phone on do not disturb, so I don't know how that call came through. But um, yeah, so my day-to-day operation, I am in the office every single day. That is very important to me, with the exception of my wife's love language being travel. If she has us away for a few days, then I'm not. But otherwise, I'm in the office every day. And my goal when I first come in every day um, is to first float around the whole office to all of our companies and just see, is there anything that I can help with? Like, is there any burdens that anybody's dealing with that I can take off their plate? And then if that's not the case, then I come into my office, I get into my emails and start, you know, checking to see if there's anything I need to address. But the rest of my time is constantly focusing on how we grow each one of the companies, like where we need to be. Hey, we need a meeting in about an hour. I want to talk about some marketing approaches to how we can get, commercial in front of this particular audience, or messaging here or on point here. So more of a visionary now, where I don't have to be in the day to day grind. I used to be in sales, you
Hmm.
know, and so it definitely was a shift for me to be, a guy bringing in $4 million a year in residential roofing, to now just trusting that our team is going to do their job, and they're doing it. But that was very difficult for me because I've always been a salesman. And but yeah, that's so my hats are basically over operations. So each day is a different day. I'll have one day it may be really heavy on Kingdom Builder construction. Another day it may be really heavy on commercial, maybe really heavy on residential. But each day brings its own, meetings, its own discussions, sometimes its own fires. But we do embrace the suck when those happen, and when the case of the Mondays come, and learn from it.
Awesome. What are you seeing? Like you just mentioned, you offer financing. That's something that's become, a lot more available. Um, who are you guys using for your financing?
We work with Chris Scoville with Improvify.
Yeah, I love
Yep,
him.
yep. An awesome guy and great program for us. It gave us many different options to put in front of the customer, so it's not so rigid. A lot of those programs out there are very rigid, and the interest rates were ridiculous, and so it was
Hmm.
almost embarrassing to offer that as a solution. And since we moved with Improvify, our guys are a lot more confident in offering financing, and with the insurance industry going the route that it's gone with, deductibles doubling and tripling, more and more people are requiring financing, even if it's just to cover their deductible.
Yeah.
And But it's given us an opportunity to provide customer more upgrade options that they're taking advantage of, because they're able to finance it over a 5 or 10 year period. Put stronger roofs on their house, so they're not having to replace their roof every 5 to 7 years because of hail. So we've been putting a lot more advanced systems on roofs since we started offering financing, um, which obviously leads to more revenue. So yeah, it's been really great. I definitely recommend anybody who is running any type of service-based business to offer financing to the customer. Sometimes they don't need it per se, but it's a nice to have. Like maybe they have a windfall coming and they want to just get that thing done right now and then just pay it off in 6 months.
Hmm.
You having that option could be the difference between you getting the job and the other guy.
Yeah, and as well as I know, I've got a couple other friends that utilize Scoville's, tools and weapons out there. Because as a business owner too, um, you can get financing for other tools, whether it's a metal bender, which can help you grow and take on new bigger jobs and opportunities. So it's not just financing for the customer, but for you
Hmm.
as a business owner too, which is I think very cool.
Yes.
What do you see? We're talking about the insurance world is it's been a punch to the gut to policyholders and contractors alike over the past handful of years. I see it every day doing what I do, and it can be disheartening. Um, so having those tools and those weapons available is very important. What are you seeing, um, or any innovative solutions other than that, or technologies that are coming out within the roofing industry that you're looking forward to?
I think that the coatings world is going to definitely increase as deductibles and insurance companies start to make it harder to get the roof spot when they have damage. So I think you're definitely going to see a pivot in the industry on both residential and commercial, where you're going to see more and more repairs and coatings put on. In the residential world, you have the solutions like the Ugly Roof and Go Nano and what have you that are offering solutions for either slowing the age or the burn rate of the roof or protecting it through nanotechnology. I think that's going to definitely increase on the residential side. On the commercial side, I think the approach that we're doing is the approach into the future. It's not going to be about
Hmm.
like you're going to have those dinosaurs that are always going to go after like all they want to do is new construction, be happy with their 5% and do $500 million in revenue every year at 5% margins. Man, I'd love to work so much less and have a 10 or $20 million commercial roofing company that is serving with repairs and maintenance and have much higher margins doing it. And so
Hmm.
um, I think that is the way of the future for commercial is the companies that don't die on the vine are going to be the ones that understand that repairs um, in maintaining the existing structures are going to be the way coming and in both platforms, whether it be residential or commercial.
Hmm. Yeah. With that being said, too, coatings in most states, if I understand, is still the way. It's considered maintenance. So
Hmm.
for the policyholder or business owner, um, that can be 100% tax write off.
Absolutely,
When they
yeah.
get it done right.
And I mean, obviously, uh, neither Cam or I are CPAs, but so consult your CPA is always the little
Yeah, for
default
sure.
that we'll say. But yes, that's been the case with a lot of our customers that on the commercial side who chose the route of coding over replacement is replacement. You have to write it off over several years, but a coding is considered maintenance in most states, and so you can write it off year one. Um,
Yeah,
so that's
and
a
and
huge
coatings
benefit.
offer. It is. So, and it's coatings on metal buildings, I think are
Hmm.
so important too, especially much larger ones that have a lot of movement with that wind. Once that cures, it's a monolithic
Yes.
just helmet that keeps the thermal expansion under control, as well as just the movement from those winds and being spanned out on those metal piers or whatever it may be. Um,
Well, not only
so yeah,
that,
it's
but
something.
it depending on if it's a white coating, the UV protection on the building itself from absorbing the heat from the sun, lowers energy bills. The HVAC bills are going down during the summer because that I think it's 75% of the UV rays are being bounced right back off the building. So
Yeah.
it's not absorbing and heat soaking the roof. And so there's definitely a lot of benefits. I mean, our own building, we own our building, and we coated all of the metal on it because the advantages of that. We didn't even one of the suites had a leak, but all the rest we just did them because of the UV protection and the fact that, like you said, it turning a bunch of individual panels into one monolithic system that's just one panel essentially. Um,
Hmm.
Means that you're not sitting there worrying about when the storms are coming like we get in Texas. You're
Yeah.
protected. Yeah.
Every day it seems like.
Yeah.
Heck, it's been up here in Oklahoma, man. It's November. We've had tornadoes, and of course, in Texas and Oklahoma, we experience crazy winds and
Mm-hmm.
tornadoes and hell even in December, January. So when people talk about storm season, like what season?
What
It's
season?
year
Yes.
round.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
I've had hailstorms in end of October. I've had them in January. So it's like the term I'll use or with our guys is I'll say traditional hail season, you know,
Yeah.
but there's no hail season particular. Like it can happen.
Yeah.
We'll get customers that'll say, "Well, I'm waiting until after hail season to replace my roof." It's like, yeah, I get that. So
Yeah.
you mean traditional hail season? Because we've had hail in October and January before. Like, oh yeah, well I guess that's what we're talking about. End of
Yeah.
August. So, but
Well, that's awesome. Are you shifting over to like your you know systems and going on with your? Are you still part of the hiring process at all?
yeah, more so on the roofing company's side than on, say, like our garage door company, our gutter company. Not so much, but on the roofing side for sure, especially in sales, just because you know we don't like turnover at all.
Mm-hmm.
It's very important to us, like because we invest in our team and in the individuals, and so we hire every single person with the expectation that they're going to stay with us forever. And I know it's not realistic in some cases, but that's the mindset that we go into because we feel like that's the best way to serve our team as well. Like again, service mind, and so we don't want to hire somebody right out of the gate that we can already see isn't going to work out. And so
Yeah.
uh, my VP of sales is great about identifying. In fact, there's been guys where I thought were going to be a good fit, and he's like, I don't know. It was just one thing, and then he'd mention it. I'm like, yeah. Now that you say it, because I'm the eternal optimist, and I want to see the best in
Yeah.
everybody. And he's also positive, but he's stepped back a little bit more into the realistic world. So he's probably saved me from having to let some guys go in the past. But man, I love the fact that ever since I've been with the company, I can definitely count on two hands, less than, two hands, maybe even just one hand, how many people we've actually had to let go. And we have a staff of 70, so
Wow.
um, especially on the roofing side for sure. Some of the other companies, the attrition rate tends to be a little bit higher just because of the nature of the industry.
Hmm.
But on our roofing company side, it's been a very, very low turnover rate. And
That's
I
good
think
to
that
hear.
has a lot to do with our culture. Culture is everything in a company. If you build your business based on the culture, you're going to be successful. But if you build it based on just revenue numbers, then it's going to fluctuate constantly because there's not really, you're going to have guys leaving, you're going to have people coming in, management leaving, people coming in. But when you have a cohesive culture where people care, I mean, I shared this on another podcast a couple of weeks ago. Wow, it's so awesome. Like we use Teams for our communication, and I'll have guys that are like, "Hey, man, I'm I'm at an adjusters meeting. It's going over. I have another one at 1 o'clock. This one went. This guy showed up late. So, is there anybody going to be in the area of X that can make my adjusters meeting?" And it's not just a matter of like somebody finally replying, "Go, well, I guess no one's going to respond, so I'll take it." It's guys falling over each other to help. Like,
Yeah.
no, man, you took it last week. I'll go. I got this one. I'm literally right down the road.
That's
I'll
really
take care of it. Are you sure, man? Yeah, yeah, I'm sure. Yeah, don't worry about it. Thanks. And I love that because traditionally in a sales team, it's cutthroat. It's
yeah.
sharks. And we just don't have that. We have guys helping each other. In sales meeting, a guy will, we have the happy crappy type thing. Hey, what's our highs and our lows for the week? And a guy will say, yeah, I had to deal with this thing. And a guy will go, well, how I got past that, and he could have kept his mouth shut.
Mm-hmm.
But he openly says, well, how I get past that is I'll ask the customer this first, and that'll tend to give me the answer I'm looking for without giving him control of the conversation on that. And it's like, you got it? Did everybody understand what he just said? You understand how
That's
paramount that
special.
is, and talk about it as a team instead of it just being this everybody's siloed on their own islands.
Yeah, that's important. I know I've been a part of some savage shark-like teams to where like covering adjuster appointments or whatever it may be wasn't going to happen unless there was a point shared or something along those lines. And that's why love the team that I'm on now because that's what we have, that culture of brother, what can I do for you? And of course I'll fly to wherever you need me to. I'm not going to get a drop off of that, and I do not care. I
No,
want to make sure that, for one, that policyholder is serviced above and beyond, and then make sure that you and your household is squared away. Whether you've got something going on with your kids' health or anything. I mean, I love that, and it makes you feel just loved in this life. And we get
mm-hmm.
one shot at this life. And it goes back to just having that servant heart and mentality
That's
and
right.
keeping that culture. If you can grow that and not be afraid to stand on that, say, hey, we all, this is a business. Uh, you know, I think some people get too wrapped up in we're family because, hey, family, it's harder to fire family.
Hey, I could
uh,
share a direct experience where I had to let a guy go. He just wasn't hacking it in sales. Did a really good job in the interview. Convinced us that he was the right person. Started to get him into the our process, our training. Got him out into the field, and it just wasn't cutting it. And we'll go into detail, but hardest thing to do is to have to let somebody go. Because I feel like I failed them. Like I should have never hired you, and so that I have to do this. I should have figured it out. But so he happens to go to my church, and like 4 months after I let him go, of course it's been always awkward because he's on security at our church, and so I would see him and kind of do kind of like the head nod little thing, as I'm coming in. Well, so like 4 months after we let him go, he walks up to me and he's like, "Hey man, what's up?" And I was like, "How you doing, buddy?" And he goes, "Good, good." He goes, "Hey man, I just wanted to thank you." And I said, "For what?" And he goes, "For firing me." And I was like, "Oh yeah?" And he goes, "Man, because you fired me, it allowed me to find out what my real passion was, and that is to be a paramedic. And I'm halfway through paramedic school. I already got my EMTB, and I'm going to be a paramedic. And that's my passion. And I found that out, and I was like, praise God, man, that's awesome. So
that is awesome.
although the end result was that I didn't want to let the guy go, ultimately by doing him a favor and not allowing him to stay in the failure of his success in sales, we give him an opportunity to go find. And so it shifted my mind where it's like I'm not firing this person, I'm giving them an opportunity to go chase something that they're passionate about because it's clearly not this,
Yeah.
and so again we talk about like learning all the time. Like it may be that I know a few more things than the next guy in this industry, but I'm constantly learning something new. And as soon as you think you know everything, get out because
Hmm.
you're of no value to the industry, and you're certainly not serving well if you think you know everything. So that was a perfect example of learning something. He taught me like, okay, yeah, no, I'm going to help this person find something they're passionate about because it's not this, and that's
Yeah, and
clear
it's
through their
taking
performance and what have you.
pressure off of you. And like you said, you've learned, you've grown from that. That hey, you don't beat yourself up over this. You're giving them an opportunity to fly,
Yeah.
and to find that really makes them tick, because this isn't for everyone.
Hmm.
I've helped a handful of folks get into it and they've soared, and then I've helped a handful of folks get into it, and it's either been every excuse in the world of why it didn't work, but then they go on, to find the things that do just make them tick, and you need to be hungry for it. You need to be able to sit in the rain and embrace that suck and laugh about it when it's not going your way, or when they denied this, or whenever, or you maybe quote unquote lost the deal to someone else. Just to help, you've got to really embrace this and love this to be successful, and that's with anything in life,
Hmm.
right? So
Part of
yeah,
that
just really
learning,
have.
yeah, I was going to just add to that, as part of that learning is when you do lose an opportunity to do a postmortem, to
Yeah.
always find out, like break the whole thing apart from the day that you got the opportunity put in front of you to the day that you realize that you lost it, and figure out what you could have done better so you don't repeat that same thing again. And that's
Hmm.
across the board, whether it's in the field that you guys are in, or whether it's in putting roofs on houses, knowing how that thing came to that position. And then next time you start to see that thing going that way, you go, nope, I've been here before. I know how this
Hmm.
ends. Nope, we're not going to do that. We're going to do it this way, and at least try a different way, because that way didn't work last time. That approach, or that laissez-faire attitude about, well, they'll just get back to me. And then you find out that the reason why they weren't getting back to you is because somebody else was, asking them to prom. Um, and you weren't knocking on the door enough. So
Yeah. Yeah, that's important, having those conversations, and understanding you should be talking to yourself. Those after action reviews, those postmortems, I still have those, whether it's in my vehicle or on a call, whether it be Zoom, um, of like, because it's usually after, and it those little ping ping, those spidey senses pop off, like you said this or you didn't say that.
mhm.
Because I've coached and trained myself, and other people have coached me, and I've allowed myself to be a student every day like you. It helps me. It's like, and I can laugh and like, okay, I'm not going to do that again. And the spidey senses start showing up earlier, so
Yeah.
you can do some preventative maintenance on that situation, which is important. So if you're out there, talk to yourself, guys. It is okay. You're not a weirdo. You should be communicating with yourself on a daily basis.
Talking, there actually
Um,
have been said that talking to yourself is a sign of intelligence. It's arguing with yourself that's insanity. But the other thing that I was going to add to that is, don't just break down the ones that you lost. Break down the
hmm.
ones you won as well. So a perfect example of that is when we won that Schreiber job. It was like a $3.8 million project, and we had no business. We understood how to do the job, but we were way over kicking our coverage, is what they'll say,
Yeah.
as far as like a project that large. But because it was so close to home, we felt confident that we could be there enough to make sure that it went as smooth as it ultimately did. But we even, for the company that hired us, who was the GC to do the roof, we asked them even after we won, like, so let me ask you a question. Thank you for the business, contract signed, everything. Why us? And his answer was very simple, and it was very concise. He said, throughout the process, every time we had a question, you guys were not only the first to respond, but you were the most thorough in your response. And that's the type of contractor we want to work with on our project, because we need somebody that's going to be thorough and care about the final product. And really, wasn't that what that response was? It was a product. We were replying back to them, showing him that we deserve to be on that playing field.
Hmm.
And not only that, but we're going to get out there quick. We're going to get out there, and we're going to, there's no walking standing around. I used to coach my sons in football, and it's like, hey, when I ask you to get out on the field, I don't want you to walk out to the field. I want you to bolt out onto the field. You should be waiting on the referee, not the other way around. And so getting a response to them right away, but being very thoughtful about our response and making sure we're grasping the full essence of what they're asking and giving that detailed response. That's what won us the job. We weren't the cheapest, he said. He said we were the most thorough and the quickest to get back to him. And it's something that we share with our guys all the time: relationships and communication. If you have those two things, you could sell anything. You could sell
Yeah.
widgets, you could sell tangible, intangible services, relationships, and communication. If you do those two things well, you will be successful in business. Is there a question?
Yeah. That's so true. And you've signed, you've answered all the questions that I was going to end this conversation, this interview, of what tips you could, give to that sales guy or that residential roofing owner that is afraid to maybe burst out of their shell and go big and dare to be great. But I really do believe you've done a really great job of communicating all of those things. So if anyone has missed it, those important points, just go back and rewatch this. Randy, I so appreciate you so much. You are a light in our industry. I look at you as a knight in shining armor. I'm proud to be, I like to call you my friend. I just love
Likewise.
seeing you in different states. When I see you across the road, like as my Texas boy, that's, not just a guy, but a great leader. And I think that's so important. And the reason why I wanted you to be on here is, and I know you're on, multiple platforms and having great opportunities to speak in other places, but I just wanted this to be another outlet for other people to find this information, to find what you have done and what you're continuing to do with the culture within your companies and when just the culture within yourself and how that's a trickle down effect and it affects all of your life, your kids, your grandkids, your wife. Again, proud to call you a friend and thank you so much for being a part of this show today. It
Appreciate it.
means the world to me.
I
So,
appreciate you having me
uh,
on.
man, it's been a blessing, truly. So, thanks again. And I'll be looking forward to seeing you soon. I'm sure we'll cross paths in the next month or two.
Yeah, but if anybody's watching and wants to connect up with me, I don't do Instagram a whole lot, though I am on there, but I am on Facebook a lot. It's just Randy Martin Hurtado. Got the blue check. You can look for that. And glad to answer any questions that you guys might have if you want to message me. I don't know all the answers, but oftentimes when somebody asks me a question that I don't have the answer to, that gives me an opportunity to learn something as well. I'll go find the answer. And so
Yeah.
appreciate having me on.
Yeah, buddy. And I'm going to make sure once this gets posted to YouTube and Facebook, all of them, to make sure we have your websites connected. So if you are out there and you want to get into this industry or you maybe want to sidestep into a different corporation of people to give you maybe a better opportunity to grow, to be educated, to grow internally as well as professionally, I 100% put my stamp of approval and you should click on that link that I post and go find them, have that conversation, and go change your life. So, everyone out there, thanks for watching. This has been the Commercial Roofing Radio, and we're proud to have your eyes and your ears. Take care, Randy. We'll talk to you soon, brother.
Take care, guys.
And Randy, stay on for a little bit while everything uploads. Cool.
Yeah.